The Haylou W1 are by far the best headphones in this comparison. They have the best microphone, and they also have the best and most balanced sound. But depending upon what genre of music you listen to, it might be a little bit more complicated than that. In today's three-way comparison between the Redmi Airdots 3, the Haylou W1, and the QCY T16, we take a deep dive into how each of these pairs of headphones sounds with different genres of music, their microphone performance, and we cover some of the basic specs that you might want to know. As always, thanks to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. I'll have a deal for you guys towards the end of this video, and as a reminder, you can always watch these videos ad-free if you're a member of my channel. Now, all of these headphones have the Qualcomm 3040 chipset. They all have Bluetooth 5.2. They all have at least 5 hours of battery life for playback. They all have at least 20 hours of extra battery with their included case. They all feature a smart case, and the headphones begin pairing when you open up that case. They all charge via USB Type-C, but the Haylou W1 are the only pair of headphones in this comparison that have any kind of battery indicator built into the case. I find that feature to be extremely helpful. The next commonality among all of these headphones is the controls. The Haylou W1 and the QCY T16 both allow you to change the track, pause the track, skip the track. They don't allow you to go ahead and change the volume, unfortunately, but the QCY headphones do have an app where you can change some of those settings, and in my experience, the QCY app is fine. Now, in true Redmi Xiaomi fashion, the Redmi Airdots 3 have a terrible control layout. They don't allow you to change the track. They don't allow you to go ahead and reformat the controls without downloading the Chinese Xiao AI application. And even then, depending upon what device you're using, and depending upon whether or not you have a global version of the Redmi Airdots, you might not even have access to this to change the controls. But the Redmi Airdots do have a proximity sensor so that when you take them out, the music pauses. The first way I tested these headphones was with hip hop. The song I use is a very popular song right now by Key Glock, Ambition for the Cash. I'll try to find it for you guys to listen to up here. And my notes on them is that the Haylou W1 have extremely controlled bass. They have a very spacey sound because they have a hole within the actual earbud construction to limit the stethoscopic effect. That said, the QCY T16 have a much punchier, much thumpier bass, where the mids are a little bit refrained, the highs are kind of bright and sparkly without being trill, and I think that overall the QCY T16 have a less accurate sound, but it's a lot more fun sounding. That said, the Redmi Airdots had much less punch than the QCY, but they didn't sound as accurate as the Haylou W1, and for hip hop, the Redmi Airdots were significantly worse if you care about vocal performance at all. The next song I listened to was by Duke Dumont. I chose to listen to some electronic music. I'll have a link for it up here for you guys. The Haylou W1 handled this extremely well, although they didn't have as much thump and pump and kind of just overall punch compared to the QCY T16. That said, the Haylou W1 did have better vocal performance, and they did give me a little bit more definition in the female vocals of this song. That said, I think that most people would think that the QCY T16s sound bassier, and it's definitely for the bass head. If you want a more accurate representation, Haylou W1. In this comparison, the Redmi Airdots didn't have as much thump and as much punch as the Haylou W1, but they didn't give me the same kind of definition as the Haylou W1. So less bass than the QCY T16, much less bass, but not accurate in the way it sounded like the Haylou W1. Vocals sounded quite muddy, and the Redmi Airdots were significantly worse in my testing for this. Next, I moved to some more classic rock with more instrumentals because I wanted to see how these sounded with a bigger variety of music. I listened to Foreplay Long Time by the group Boston, and this is where the Haylou W1 really shined. There was a lot of definition in between instruments. I had a ton of clarity in the vocals, everything was very bright and sparkly, never trill. That said, I was able to hear the difference between the bass guitar and the rhythm guitar and the drums very succinctly, whereas with the QCY T16, it was a little bit more muddied and kind of less definition in the bass and in the mids. The Redmi Airdots 3 were by far the worst sounding headphones in this test. The Redmi Airdots 3 were absolutely terrible in this test. If you listen to classic rock, the Redmi Airdots 3 are definitely not a pair of headphones that you want to pick up. We then listened to some more modern rock that has less instruments, no keyboard, and we listened to Benjamin Booker, Violent Shiver. This is kind of a bluesy, very raspy voice, and what I wanted to hear specifically was how much definition and clarity I had in the singer's voice, because the singer's voice sounds very, very distinct and unique. And again, the Haylou W1 gave me a lot of definition in the vocals. They sounded much better with this style of music. The QCY T16 began to fall apart here. The highs seemed a little bit shrill, and being able to hear the difference between the cymbals and the guitar and the vocals on the upper part of the response range was worse. Again, the Redmi Airdots for this style of music sounded even worse, as I had no definition in any of the instruments. I couldn't really hear the difference between the bass guitar and the drums. I didn't have very much in the mids, and they just were terrible. Now I want to go ahead and give you guys a microphone test after a brief word from our sponsor. When my 3-month free trial to Surfshark VPN ended, I found myself buying a subscription with my own money. See, in my experience, having a VPN that's fast, reliable, and without data caps was really convenient. See, here in Vietnam, the internet isn't the freest of places. And whether it's wanting access to BBC News or Pornhub, having the ability to change my location was extremely useful. On top of that, I found myself using Surfshark VPN when I was having issues logging into Zoom meetings because the servers here in Vietnam were overcrowded. Being able to change my location has literally saved my butt when I need to get online to teach English classes, and I have tons of latency issues with Zoom here in Vietnam. For my viewers, you get an 84% discount, so it's around $2 a month for Surfshark VPN. And if you guys want to go ahead and try Surfshark VPN for 3 months free, go ahead and click the link in the description down below. Maybe it's the right fit for you, maybe it's not.
You're hearing me on the Redmi Airdots 3, inside in a quiet environment. How do I sound? You're hearing me on the QCY T16, inside quiet environment with some echoes. How do I sound? You're hearing me on the Haylou W1, inside quiet environment with some echoes. How do I sound? Now you're hearing me on the Redmi Airdots 3, inside with some simulated background noise. How do I sound? Now you're hearing me inside QCY T16, medium background noise. How do I sound? Now you're hearing me inside medium background noise, Haylou W1. How do I sound?
Now, as you guys could hear, in a quiet environment, the QCY T16 actually sound quite good, and they do a very decent job of eliminating echo. That said, the Haylou W1 are definitely the best headphones with no background noise. With background noise, the difference between them gets even greater. I was actually surprised by the Redmi Airdots and how much worse they sounded compared to all of these other headphones. I didn't have the kind of noise isolation from background noise that I did with the other two headphones, even though the Redmi Airdots feature CVC 8.0 because they have a Qualcomm chipset. My only explanation for the Redmi Airdots being so poor in this microphone test was the fact that they use cheaper components and cheaper microphones in their construction. I don't know why Xiaomi Redmi decided to do this. The price of the Redmi Airdots in most of the places I've seen it is around $30 to $35. And I think the difference of $4 to $8, depending upon where you live, for these other headphones means that you get a usable microphone and much better background noise isolation. I do think that the QCY T16 had a very good showing, but just based on their design, it's going to be hard for them to perform better. Now, if you guys like these detailed head-to-head comparison videos, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below. And if you guys want to watch these videos without ad breaks and unmonetized, go ahead and become a channel member. It's $1 a month and you get access to my Discord server.